You ever have one of those moments when a single sentence detonates your whole sense of security, like someone just lobs a grenade into your peace and stands back to watch it blow? That's how all this started, with a comment so loaded, so smug and oblivious, it clung to the air like old cigarette smoke. You people always seem to find your way into neighborhoods you don't belong in. That's what my new neighbor said to me barely a week after moving in, her voice all hushed and conspiratorial, like we were partners in some ugly secret. It was a Saturday morning. I was watering the petunias my wife had planted with her own two hands, just soaking up the quiet after a long week. And here's this paper-thin, brittle old woman face, stretched tight like she'd had every last ounce of empathy ironed out. Now look, I tried to be neighborly, gave her a good morning, a smile, the whole bit, but that's the welcome I got. And I looked over at my house, this place my wife and I had killed ourselves, to afford her a surgeon pulling 12-hour shifts, me running a software company from the spare bedroom, and it hit me how wrong she was. If anyone belonged here, it was us. I let the comment slide, figured it was the generational rot of someone too old and too bitter to know better. That was my first mistake. My second mistake, I underestimated just how far a person can go when they think the world is theirs by birthright, and that my black wife was nothing but a temporary trespasser in her eyes. See, the war didn't start with that comment, not really. The first real shot was fired over a parking dispute, except it wasn't about a street spot or someone inching over the line. No, my wife came home after a marathon shift at the hospital, running on fumes, and found her way completely blocked. The neighbor had parked her SUV sideways across our driveway like a guard dog who'd claimed the shade as her own. Not a little over the line. I mean, fully deliberately, you're not getting in blocked. My wife's the picture of patience, always has been. She honked nothing, got out exhaustion written across her face, and tried to reason with her. Before she even set foot on the lawn, the neighbor bursts out, primed for battle-spitting venom before my wife could even explain. I saw it all from my office window, and by the time I got outside, it was a full-blown spectacle. My wife standing her ground, arms crossed, not backing down an inch, and that woman, half out her driver's window, shrieking about how she had a right to the shade on our driveway. "I need to get things out of my trunk. It's too hot in the sun. You can wait," she screamed. My wife, voice calm and low, just said, "This is my garage. You're blocking my house. Move your car." And then, like it was the most natural thing in the world, the neighbor went nuclear. "I see strange people around this garage all the time. I'm protecting the neighborhood," she shouted. "I'm calling the police to report a burglar." She grabbed her phone thumbs, stabbing away, and I realized I was already recording audio at least. War had been declared. Within minutes, the sirens blared down our little street, neighbors peeking out from behind curtains drawn by the noise. And there she was, arms folded, smirk on her face like she'd just summoned backup in her righteous crusade. The cops got out one older, grizzled guy who looked like he'd seen every kind of dumb drama, the other young and sharp eyes darting between us and the garage. "What's going on here?" the old one asked, and before I could get a word out, the neighbor's performance began. "Thank God you're here. That woman?" She pointed at my wife like she was identifying a suspect in a lineup was trying to break in. "I don't know who she is. She got aggressive when I confronted her. I was afraid for my life. I'll tell you, the lies came so quick and thick I almost laughed out loud. She spun this whole tapestry of black criminality and white victimhood, thinking the cops would buy it." The young officer turned to my wife. "Ma'am, is this true?" My wife didn't blink. "Officer, this is my home. That is my husband. That is our garage. My car is inside her car," she pointed, "is blocking me from coming home after 12 hours at the hospital." The older cop sighed, walked over, looked at our garage, checked the license plate, checked my ID, nodded. The neighbor, desperate now, tried. "But my car needs shade. It's expensive. She can park in the sun." The younger cop, patience fraying, said, "Ma'am, you cannot block someone's driveway because you want shade. Move your vehicle right now." The neighbor sputtered about harassment and political correctness, but just then her husband finally appeared, a small, balding man, always looking like he wanted to disappear. "Honey, you can't park there," he muttered, and she spun on him with a glare that could melt steel. The older cop had had enough. "Move it or we tow it, and you get cited for obstruction and filing a false police report." Finally, she caved, stormed back to her SUV, tires screeching as she whipped it into her own driveway. Her husband followed, shoulders slumped. The cops stuck around till my wife pulled in. The old one tipped his hat. "Get a camera. It solves a lot of problems," that's what he said. After they left, my wife leaned against her car, the weight of it all crashing down. "A camera's a good idea," she said, voice soft. But I knew it wasn't enough. Something in me hardened a cold, logical resolve. If she wanted a battle over shade, property, and comfort, I'd fight it on every front. That night I built a plan: fortress-level security cameras, high-powered smart sprinklers at the driveway edge, remotely controlled motion-activated pure deniable vengeance, even directional sound emitters to subtly ruin her porch serenity. Petty maybe. But after the way she tried to erase my wife with a 911 call, no way I was backing down. Oh, and the HOA. I read the bylaws cover to cover, made our house squeaky clean, documented everything on her property that didn't measure up. If she wanted to use bureaucracy as a weapon, I'd become an expert marksman. First test. On a baking Wednesday, she drifted toward our driveway for her daily dose of stolen shade. 15 seconds, the app beeped, whoomp, sprinkler went off, nailed her square in her expensive blouse. She shrieked, soaked and humiliated, and I nearly wept with laughter. My wife just grinned from the kitchen window. The next day, I get an HOA complaint: hazardous sprinklers, intimidating cameras, alleged harassment. I shot back with video, the sprinkler manual, and a legal breakdown. Case dismissed. Round 1 hours. But then a twist. Something out of left field. Late one night, reviewing security footage, I noticed a pattern: our neighbor strolling down the street after the mail truck, reaching into other folks' mailboxes, stuffing envelopes into her tote. Never ours. Was she stealing mail? Not a petty prank anymore, a federal crime. I checked with Mr. Taylor, retired postman next door. He'd had checks go missing. The Garcias a baby gift. This lady wasn't just a bully, she was a thief. With Mr. Taylor's help, we set a trap: dummy card, GPS tracker, a glitter bomb for good measure. On the big day, I watched from my command center as she snatched the bait from the Garcia's box, walked straight home. 15 minutes later, her husband knocked on my door, begging me not to report it. "She's not well, please, we'll pay, just don't call the police." I looked him dead in the eye and said, "It's too late, you should have stopped her." Then I called the postal inspectors and the police. This time they came in force. The same 2 officers plus a pair of feds in suits, Mr. Taylor as witness. 10 minutes in her house and she emerged in handcuffs covered in purple glitter. The bomb had gone off perfectly. Her hoard bags of stolen mail, months, maybe years worth, all there for everyone to see. No more plausible deniability. She was charged, released on bail, slapped with a restraining order. Our little block was peaceful again for a while. But it's never really over, is it? About a month later, sharp knock at the door. Man in a suit, eyes like a shark, hands me a business card. Arthur Kensington, attorney for the Ainsworth family. The meek husband, turns out, is a retired venture capitalist, and now they're coming after us with a civil suit: stalking, harassment, conspiracy, entrapment. They spun it all: our security cameras, the sprinkler, the glitter bomb, into some high-tech vendetta against a confused old woman. I laughed in Kensington's face. "We have proof." He just smiled. "Proof is a matter of interpretation. And we have deeper pockets." He promised to bury us in legal bills, discovery subpoenas. It was war, but on a battlefield I'd never chosen. 18 months. That's how long it dragged on. Lawyers' depositions, endless nights hunched over paperwork with my wife, watching our savings bleed away. The Ainsworths weaponized the system, spun the story to make us look like monsters, split the neighborhood, dragged out every ugly stereotype in the book. My wife was magnificent, calm under fire, never letting them see a single crack. The turning point came when the judge ruled our security footage was admissible. There was no arguing with the tape. Suddenly, they wanted to settle, drop the suit in exchange for silence. We took it. The fight was over, but the price was steep. A few weeks later, the Ainsworths moved out in shame. The new neighbors, young and normal, wave and smile. My wife parks in her own garage. Now no drama, just peace. We drink a beer in the garage one evening and she laughs. "This must be the most expensive parking spot in America." Yeah, it is. But it's ours. We earned every inch of it. The scars are there, financial, emotional, you name it. But we stood our ground. We proved we belonged not just to the neighborhood, but to ourselves. So tell me, who do you think was right? Where does justice end and revenge begin? Drop your take in the comments because I've got my answer, but I'd love to hear yours.